So here we are. We're in the second week. That first week could have fit a whole year in it. I mean, we've got the raids, we've got like the pardons on the January 6th rioters. You've got like him actually welcoming Iran to kill his enemies who he just removed their security detail for. He ended up actually rescinding enforcement of civil rights all the way back to the 60s, uh, like with Lyndon B. Johnson and, you know, discrimination in the federal government, but then also with just the employment, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. He just he's gutting that, and so now there's not really going to be much of that enforcement for all of those gains that we've been making for the last 60 years. And then the DOJ's Civil Rights Division was shut down. We've got withdrawing of the WHO from the WHO. We've got stopping external communications of a health department. So the CDC and you've got the National Institutes of Health. They can't communicate or continue different of their research during a bird flu outbreak. And so, lots of things happening all at once. And, you also have, of course, the attempt to uh, overturn birthright citizenship. And even got the freaking crypto scam where he scammed his supporters out of billions of dollars. And things are. But here's what I wanted to discuss today and what I think to really focus on here. So we cannot let the shock and awe, this is shock and awe. We can't be shocked and awe. So these are some things that I have been doing over this week. So in order to, I'm just read this off. Let's see here. All right, so okay, so of course, I look up information I needed on crazy policy, but I don't look for what comes out of his mouth any given day. I let the group that organized a post-election event with at the end of last year know that I reserved a room for us to meet again in February. This is going to be so we can't fall for that shock and awe. We cannot let our space shrink. And so, as for protests are intentional, spreading awareness, community preparation is intentional. Combating misinformation is intentional. Keeping up with policy is intentional. Documenting and this kind of communication that we're doing, that is intentional. But knowing everything he says and does is not intentional. That's how we're going to end up falling for that shock and awe, where we end up so overwhelmed that we fall into despair and we freeze up, and then this we feel this urge to withdraw and disengage. So we're only focused on what's intention. Is the objective is for us to get demoralized and to feel like nothing we can do matters. If you ever have a nagging thought of nihilism, nihilism isn't coming to terms with reality. It's disassociating from it, and nothing will be accomplished by people who are not engaged. All right. And so this is another thing that I want to also go over is at this moment, the work that you're doing, even aside from just political protest work, just for everyday work, it does still matter to this moment. So don't uh, don't feel like, you know, with your career, with that work, that that by focusing in on that, you're leaving the moment that we're in. Because actually, this is going to be very important. We have to continue in those areas and excel in those areas in order to accumulate that power and influence in these spheres of society. So how do we protect something when we can't rely on a societal agreement to protect them? By accumulating and exerting our own power and influence to establish and strengthen defensive mechanisms within our communities. We can't just speak truth to power. We need power because even self-evident truths are not self-enforcing. Institutions and norms are collapsing, and malicious forces are in a race to grab power in each sphere of our society. We have to enter this race in order to not find ourselves locked out of essential vectors for communicating and establishing values for several decades. We can either experience 4 to 10 years of regression of our freedoms and liberties, or we can have an era of regression of those freedoms and liberties. And so really in this moment, we are trying to protect what we have. Like, it's really upsetting that we might not be making a lot of progress. Like, we might not see a lot of like things being pushed in the next years. But holding the line is important because that's what separates, 4 to 10 years of regression. Like, when you had in Poland, where they had a party in power for about a decade that had these LGBTQ free zones. And, after that decade, what we see in the last 2023, 2024, they actually have rolled those back, and really what that separates from is some years of regression after which we bounce back, or something like reconstruction. Like, this is what we're up against. These are the realities that we're facing. And this is why I would say that we have no illusions. And just because we may not be able to make a bunch of gains, more, additional gains to what we might have had the year before over this period, we can shorten this period of regression. And that's our aim. That's what we're focused on.